Yes, well, good morning. Look, I've been thinking, well, I guess those guys and their pots of paint have got me thinking, right? And which is probably something they don't do too often. And I'm warming to the idea, the concept at least, of eugenics, which is, if you don't know, it's the idea of kind of giving evolution a nudge. I mean, I'm not actually a massive believer in evolution at all. I don't believe in it actually, and Darwin certainly isn't the wonderful guy he's made out to be at all. In fact, Darwin was a strong advocate of eugenics. So I don't want to align myself with these guys at all. But there's a reason for that, if I'm being brutally honest. Okay, and it isn't that I've got a problem with the overall concept of giving maybe not evolution, it's just improvement and refinement of the human being, a bit of a helping hand, right? By trying to ensure where possible the people with the better DNA, the better genes, will take up a larger and larger proportion of the overall population. I certainly don't believe in the idea of doing anything to reduce the population artificially. I think there's a case for saying that would happen kind of naturally. So you're just kind of, just gently speeding the process up. Now, here's where it all goes horribly wrong. And it would go horribly wrong if any of us were given the responsibility of taking this on. And that is that, of course, it's human nature. When it gets personal and closer to home, well, you're not. So, for example, if I had control over eugenics, I'm not going to be turning around saying, right, actually, my DNA's crap, right? So we need to, I better not do any breeding, or I better not have any children. That's not going to happen, is it? Right? So that will apply to anybody who's given that responsibility. Now, think about it. We kind of do eugenics already, don't we? But with animals, we do it with, I don't agree with it, frankly, but because I don't see why it's any of our business to mess around with animals in that way. But we do it, dog breeders do it. It's done through, breeding, selective breeding, which is what eugenics is about. It's selective breeding. Now, I guess you would argue that works in the sense that it achieves the aim they intended, effectively developing the purest breed possible, which of course ironically ends up creating a dog or a cat or whatever the animal is that's far more susceptible to illness and disease than if they were a crossbreed. So there goes your argument for eugenics out the window. But anyway, what works about it is that it's not dogs and cats who are deciding who they should breed with. It's another more evolved intelligence that's making that decision in a very dispassionate way. I guess what I'm saying here is if there was a superhuman race already in existence, maybe they're underground or something, right? If those people existed, so they are at a point in their own development that they're quite distinctly different from human beings, they're kind of an entire degree higher in terms of intellect and in all areas. So the entirety of intellect, I mean intellect in kind of emotional balance of the male and the female within the brain, all of that stuff, the higher self, these people, if anyone was going to do it, they should be doing it. Now, I don't know if they exist or not, right? But those would be the people who would do it. So in other words, they couldn't be humans, they'd have to be provably not human. Okay, for it to work. Because then they're looking at us as a different species, a lower species that they have that distance and that superiority, the clarity that we lack. And they also lack the baggage of any kind of emotional ties, subjectivity in the process. But as you can see, I guess what I'm describing here is the difficulty with the whole concept of eugenics. Instead, what we have is we have people like Bill Gates, who's got a history. His entire family is involved in eugenics. His father, friends with Margaret Sanger, who is probably one of the most outspoken and outrageous eugenicists. George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, H.G. Wells, Keir Starmer. All of these people are members of what's called the Fabian Society. The Fabian Society believe wholeheartedly in eugenics. When you read books like Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, or you read 1984 by George Orwell, and you think, oh my God, how amazingly prophetic these guys were. Weren't they so intelligent? The answer, unfortunately, is no. They were just telling you what's coming. All right? Because you have to kind of put it out there, give people the opportunity to say no. That's part of their mode of operation, if you like. Now, whether you want to tie that in with karma, then you can. But the reality is that's the way they work. They have a need to ensure that in some kind of way, normally indirect, normally rather obscure, they'll put a message out in a film or in another way. And if we don't pick up on that, if we don't challenge it, if we don't, effectively, passively refuse to comply, then as far as they're concerned, we've accepted it. They gave us fair notice and they're going to do it. So, yeah, well, I've lost my thread. Anyway, there we go. Goodbye.